Hello, everyone. Good morning. The markets are in a bit of chaos as we are opening up today with the DeepSeek headlines affecting AI in so many forms, the AI infrastructure, cloud providers, NVIDIA, everything that has to do with AI. We will get into all of those details as the stream unfolds and George rolls in here. Hopefully, you guys are doing okay, although the markets are very red. The QQQ actually hit down 5% in the pre-market this morning. Things are trying to fight back, though. We are down about 2.7% as of right now in the QQQ, down 1.6% in the SPY. The Dow Jones is almost green. It's down only 0.12%, and the Russell is down 0.3%. So we are red across the board right now. Let's take a look at the QQQ and SPY net option sentiments on this red day that we have here. So the QQQ net option sentiment is down to 8, and the SPY is actually at 30. So the SPY is above the QQQ, which is a flip from what we've seen recently. So it looks like there is a lot of tech fear in the market, and maybe we're seeing the inverse of what we've seen in the recent market, where the QQQ has led the way. Like I said, we have so much. We're going to cover this DeepSeek story in full capacity, give you all the details around it, why it's hurting the market, if it will continue to going forward, how it affects the mega cap tech stocks, all of the details around it. It's probably going to be a large portion of the stream today because it is so impactful. And we'll go over some of the stocks that are going to be reporting earnings this week. We have Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, and Meta. So a major earnings week, and that's amongst many other companies that are also reporting earnings. We have our first taste of the Trump tariff wars. Something almost kicked off over the weekend with Colombia. There were tariffs of 25% placed on them and reversed almost instantly. So I'll give you the details around that story and how you can expect some headlines to affect companies going forward with more actions like this that could take place in the future. Then we have George making moves pre-market. Obviously, it's a very volatile day. And we saw, if you guys are subscribers to the investing and trading letters, you probably saw him adding, then dropping, then adding Coinbase. And I was curious about why he did that. So I asked him in our meeting before the stream today, and we'll go over that. And if crypto can hold up in this possible bearish turn from here, let's take a look at Bitcoin. I believe it was up on the day the last time I took a look at it. So yeah, Bitcoin is actually holding up on the day. It's up 0.7%. It's at 101,000. So since Bitcoin trades 24/7, maybe it's selling off yesterday and it's able to provide a little bit of strength today. But I think the fact that it's not deeply red on a day where, high growth tech and everything is getting hit, maybe it's a telling sign for the relative strength of crypto and Bitcoin going forward. We have an update in the Perplexity. Well, we have an update in the TikTok US story where Perplexity.ai has made an offer to combine companies. I'll give you the details about that and the possibility that the US government will own 50% of the remaining company called Nuco once it takes place. And we have two more stories to get into, but before I mention them today, we have 44 people that have tuned into the stream today. Actually, one of my lucky numbers. So great to have you all in here. If you enjoy our streams and you're a regular viewer, please like the stream on YouTube or Twitter or wherever you are watching, and share it with a friend on this very important day, as we're about to dive into all of the major details affecting everyone's portfolios. Like I said, we have two more stories. So the first of which is a story about Costco switching from Pepsi to Coca-Cola as their provider for. Hello, George. How you doing? Oh, I don't know if George can hear me. But I'll just keep telling the story. So we have Costco switching from Pepsi to Coke in their food courts, and they're famous for their $1.50 hot dog, which I'll give you some details about because it's pretty funny. The fact that they can still charge only $1.50 for their hot dog soda combo. And last but not least, before we wrap it up with what is sure to be a very important model portfolio update at the end of this stream, we have AT&T, one of the only stocks that was able to be up today after they reported earnings. So maybe we will see a switch to value stocks coming back in vogue and a break from these high flyers. But George, so we just took a look at the SPY and QQQ net option sentiment. It's one of the first times in a long time that I could remember where the SPY net option sentiment was higher than QQQ. Obviously, we're going to dive into this DeepSeek story and how it's affecting all of these stocks today. But before we get into that, George, what's going on with the overall markets? Are we seeing this mini black swan take hold of the markets on this Monday morning?
I mean, it's very interesting. One more second. I have to send out the stream to one person. Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing here is not unlike what we've been expecting, right? I think we've been warning, especially with potential tariffs, that just, incentivizes, that gives China more and more incentive to create something new, right? Create something competitive. I think we'll see the market work it out. Obviously, like we've been warning about chips, right? We don't have any chips in our portfolio. We're still having a horrible day. I think a lot of people are having a worse day than us. But that's with no chips in our portfolio. But obviously, even without the chips, there's a lot of other stuff that's getting affected here. It's a big deal, right? It's a big deal that there is a potential threat. And it's not as much of a threat. Like you're not going to see any like Fortune 1000 companies using China for their cloud anytime soon, right? There's a litany of reasons for that. But if you're talking about, compute as an export, right? That's what the market's reacting to today. It's a severe reaction. And this, by the way, is what we always said was the problem with NVIDIA. We've been consistent, right? It's not that NVIDIA isn't a great company. It's just that any threat to its dominance, the market could take very seriously. I was already, we had one NVIDIA position this year that I was like, I shouldn't have done that. I didn't think chips would be in good shape. But if I were you, I would stay away from all chip stocks until further notice. That's where I'm going to be at.
So NVIDIA, as we're speaking now, is actually hitting new lows on the day, down over 15% and at just under $121. I was about to ask you, since the QQQ hit negative 5% pre-market and then was kind of coming back throughout the day, maybe we were seeing some positive momentum and that was a good sign, but it looks like maybe that could be reversing right now. But how I don't know if you were looking at the pre-market this morning, but when the QQQ was down 5%, how are your emotions? How are you feeling? And the legitimacy of the fear that we're seeing?
Oh man, I woke up and I was just like, I'm sure people have had this expression, but fuck, it's like, and it sucks because it's early in the year. Like if this was last year, it wouldn't have hit our percentage, but it hit it huge. I think for the first time. I mean, I've never seen us down on the market, but I saw us only 7% up at one point this morning. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's early in the year and these things move that quickly. We started it like, we're back to 25% up. Still one of the lower numbers I've ever seen for us, but yeah, we're adjusting. We're adjusting in real time. We added Dell as a short. I almost 2x that. I kind of wish I did 2x it because it's looking like a good protection. But yeah, I mean, it's not just that. It's also like our short positions. We shorted the wrong things today too. It's been a tough day. to say the least. And this is what happens, right? This happens with our short strategy. It's happened before. We tend to hit shorts that have momentum going against them. But in tough markets, those are the first stocks people buy because they say, oh, this is where the value could be. They've been beaten down. And I think that is what's going on with our one hedge, the ON semiconductor, right? That's actually a loss today. But it's a loss because things have just, have not been going very well.
So let me give some details behind this DeepSeek that has shaken the market. So there's this DeepSeek app that's a large language model that has risen to #1 in the App Store now that it came out. And what this Chinese company is claiming is that it was built in under 2 months for less than $10 million. And the figure I heard now is 6 million total, which would shake up the whole AI development technology infrastructure plans that I think, this Stargate project that was for $500 billion over the next 4 years. It questions all of that narrative and the AI story that has played out in the market. How much do you believe in the details that we've been getting from out of this story of the fact that this thing was for $6 million? There's a lot more I want to ask you, but maybe we should just start there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is what you're pulling at, right? It's just like we always have to be careful because nobody ever really knows how honest China is being, right? So that's the first thing. You got to take anything with China with a grain of salt. But yeah, I think that it's hard, and it's hard just because everybody knows if this is real, right? And probably what always happens with uncertainty in the market, this is probably being treated right now in this moment like somewhere closer to real than not real, right? Because it's never going to be, if this was all the way factual, NVIDIA would be down, 60, 70%. Factual, rolled out with customers, people were starting to leave, right? That would be a huge decline for NVIDIA, maybe an overreaction, right? But since it's just a rumor and it's coming from China, and China is known to fudge things, but the other thing that's important to keep in mind is that China is smart, right? And what does China know about us that we might be coming to war on tariffs? How do you hurt the US? How do you hurt Trump? Trump cares about the stock market. Attack the stock market, right? So there's a side that could say like, yeah, it might be real, everything like that, but also it's coming out of China. China's not beyond completely fabricating numbers, right? To hurt us. It's just like there's an expression in old like spy terms, and it was more about the Cold War, and it was called sowing discontent, right? You would make stories, do things, engage in things that would sow discontent, right? I believe, whether this is true, whether it's not true, it's certainly sowing discontent in the stock market. And you've got to take it with a grain of salt, but you've got to also take it seriously. The only reason we're not selling more right now is because it looks like there's some recovery. It's going up, it's going down, but we'll see. We might get out of some of these positions when we look at them.
So another question I have is so this morning it seemed like all of the AI adjacent and companies that are affected or involved with AI were kind of getting hit the same way. And maybe now throughout the day, we're seeing some winners and losers emerge. I was wondering, Tesla's AI business is different from NVIDIA's, whereas I'm not sure this hurts Tesla's as much as NVIDIA's because Tesla's is just their product. And as long as their product works, they'll hopefully sell more cars and be able to profit more. So,
yeah, like Meta's doing great today. Tesla, because at the end of the day, right, cheap compute, if you're not entrenched in a current cloud structure, right? Cheap compute is good. It's easier to run Meta's business with cheap compute. They're not going to China anytime soon, but you have to look at this as like, okay, maybe there's a response in the US and compute is just cheaper. For a company like Meta, that's actually really good news, right? Same thing with Tesla, that's not really committed to any specific thing. Hey, if compute got cheaper, that would also be good for Tesla, right? I think you're just seeing some general, panic around US stocks. And I think there's two things going on, right? There's stocks that are being attacked because they have, they touch AI or compute or anything like that in the surrounding, businesses. And then you have just general nervous around the US stock market, overvalued stocks, right? The undervalued stocks, the ones that have been beat up more, those are being bought up a little bit because we say in hard times, that's what happens. And then we're seeing a stock like Tesla that some might consider a little overvalued, getting hurt a bit just because it's like we're basically seeing AI companies get hit and then kind of like a value correction on everything else. Some stocks that are overvalued are getting hit a little. Some stocks that were viewed as undervalued, beat up more, they're getting bought up today. Where we go from here, I don't know. I'm going to be looking at the strategy. Like I've said, we've seen some things like, just to be specific, we saw Palantir, emerge to about 3% down. Now it's back again. We've got to kind of see how this continues to develop.
And like you were saying, like the winners are losing today and the losers are winning. Apple, which has been getting hit a lot, is up today. I think I actually saw that the DeepSeek model was built on top of Llama, Meta's AI, which is open source. So I think Meta might be ahead of the curve here, and maybe companies like OpenAI and all of the large language model companies are the ones that are the biggest losers here. Whereas
that's what we've been saying, that we like one of our big theses on Meta is that we like what they've been doing in open source, right? Because in our view, it's only a matter of time, right? Because before that becomes more and more valuable. I've always said that, right? Because on one hand, you've got something like the OpenAI models where to pay for the compute, they're going to need to be charged more and more, right? Whereas you have someone like Meta that has something open source, things can build on top of. That's why I always like open source more, because the world has been changing, right? And people expect this. Oh, thanks, Daily Stock Picks. Hard day. Hope you're doing all right out there. We just kind of have to see what happens here, but I always think that people that pursue open source models, they're going to do better long term. Hi, Gary. And that's why we tend to lean. We tend to like open source things. That's why we've liked Meta. It's been one of our favorite stocks on a longer time scale, just because they have their really nice ad revenue base, and then they're really doing clever things. With PyTorch, that was the first open source thing that really did well. It really, before that, people were using Google's open source algos and for TensorFlow. And now a lot more people use PyTorch. And now you have, things built on Llama, and that's the future. So I'm glad that was the one good long I picked this week, Meta.
So something that I heard on CNBC this morning, so I don't know if it's verified or not, but was that this DeepSeek, which is now the #1 app, in its terms of service, it like verifies or it makes you accept that it can read through and access all of your Gmail history. So I just wanted to say that on stream for anybody who's thinking about downloading it. Maybe think twice before you download this app. And obviously, we're going to cover this update in the TikTok story, but with all of the lawfare from the government going on against that, I'm wondering how long this DeepSeek app is even going to be around, or if there's anything going to come from that perspective of the story.
Yeah, maybe they've been sitting on this technology and not telling anyone about it, and now that they're worried about losing TikTok, they need a new way to spy on all of us. Could be, right?
It's kind of
Uh,
crazy that I got to the number one app like so quickly.
Wait, what is it? What is DeepSeek doing for? Is it? It's just like Chat GPT. Like it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah, same thing basically.
yeah. Well, that's that is very very interesting. Um,
So before this weekend, almost Black Swan coming out, the news stories for this week were all going to be around the earnings because we have a lot of major earnings coming across the board this week, like Meta, Microsoft, Apple, Tesla. I was wondering if you have any insights into like a company that has an earnings report coming up, if what they were going to say on the call had already been formed and now they're scrambling because they're going to have to update Wall Street on this latest events, or how it would be for those companies leading into these earnings that are coming out, starting tomorrow and then over the next couple days.
well, that's the thing. Like, I think as a chip company, they're really in trouble, right? Because you have a responsibility in your forecasts to be conservative, right? And even just with the news of this, maybe not next quarter, maybe not 2 quarters out, but as you look in your further projections, you have to respect this somewhat, right? Because the worst thing you could do is have this become bigger and then have to revise down like your 2026 forecast 40% because you weren't willing to do it like 20% this quarter and then another 20% when it came to fruition more, right? That could be a pretty catastrophic event, as it goes for everything else, right? I think about like AppLovin, Palantir, right? Let's go about AppLovin because they're kind of like a service layer, right? Yeah, it's a bit of a threat to them because they're working like with cloud and on top of cloud, but at the same time, like we're saying, like it might not be that big of a deal because like let's just be specific, right? Let's say Sweden was an AW, like these Swedish companies that were an AWS customer and now they're going to be a DeepSeek customer, right? Were those Swedish companies using AppLovin in the first place? Probably not, right? They touch it, maybe they touch it a little bit when in these, with the cloud business, everything like that. But they might have their own, and I'm using Sweden because I actually have no idea whether AppLovin is getting their revenue from the app markets in Sweden or through cloud in Sweden, right? But that's just to say, right, given that I don't really know how tangibly their businesses are affected, or, like we're saying, all of these Fortune 1000, 2000 companies that are providing revenue to these service layer providers, how much that's going to change because they're probably not going to switch to DeepSeek, right? That's a big unknown. That could be an overreaction. But there's kind of no such thing, and you kind of called it a mini black swan. There's kind of no such thing as an overreaction to this at the information level we have it, because we always say it's something in the middle, right? And there's no such thing as an overreaction because, like we said, we don't know if this cuts 80% of NVIDIA's, of AWS's international business over the next 2 years. We don't know that, right? So is it worth hedging yourself by dumping NVIDIA today? Yeah, almost definitely. And that's why I recommended it, right? There's a lot more to lose from here if it's serious than to win if it's not serious, because for the main reason, we don't know if it's not serious today, right? And that's going to play out. And the hard thing about an event like this is there could be this one announcement, right? And then we hear nothing. And then 6 months later, because China's also very secretive, right? 6 months later, we hear that, they've acquired 20% of what used to be American cloud providers, business. They've taken, 30% of OpenAI's customers, right? We won't know that until we see it, right? And if they're taking OpenAI's customers, who does OpenAI use for, compute? The American cloud providers, right? And they're paying a lot of money to the American cloud providers, right? That's why right now, I'm probably not willing to buy chips. I'm probably not willing to buy Microsoft. I'm probably not willing to buy Google or Amazon until I have more information. That's where I'm at. That's where I'd recommend you be at.
So it sounds like you're giving credibility to the idea that this is in some capacity, like it could develop into some similarity to the dot-com bubble, where things are way over their skis. And although the tech is very real and it will have amazing impacts in the long run, the market could be overexcited and overvaluing some of it in the short term. And maybe that's not the most likely scenario, but if it's even a possible outcome, you have to position yourself accordingly.
What word did you use at the beginning here?
I think credibility to that story.
Yes.
Maybe.
See, I would define it differently. I was like, that's not the word I'd use. I'd say you have to respect the downside, right? You have to respect the downside. That's where I'm at with it, right? You always have to respect the downside.
I wanted to give this story a lot of time for all of our viewers since it's obviously impacting the market so well, but I'm ready to move on. So maybe if you guys have any more questions regarding this topic, just feel free to comment them and we'll circle back to it. But if not, we'll move on from here. So there was a event happened that also over the weekend where Trump put tariffs on Colombia of 25%, and they were rescinded almost immediately. So what happened was the USA had sent 2 airplanes of Colombian citizens back to Colombia, and they were denied landing in the country. And once Trump heard that, it's kind of funny. If anybody was following it on social media, he was actually on the golf course when all this was happening, and he put 25% tariffs on them instantly. And Colombia instantly flipped back and accepted the planes and said they'll send planes to collect the people. So the tariffs never went into place. But I just wanted to bring this up as something that could affect the markets going forward, where you'll have these flash news stories that could, completely change the narrative on a certain sector. Like one of the things that was going to be highly affected by this was coffee imports from Colombia, which is our biggest import from them. And that would obviously affected food companies and all the coffee suppliers, I'm sure Starbucks and a bunch of others. So we can expect more of this going forward, right? These events that just pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, as I'm thinking about that, it's just like I've actually heard people say that the immigration stuff is to mask other, perhaps corruption going behind the scenes. But as you were saying that, all I could say, all I could think was, you know what? Maybe the tariffs are a way to get people to take their immigrants back, right? And that's all he was ever after. Like, where it's just like, okay, well, I'll tariff you. That gives him leverage to then say, take the migrants back. I mean, if it was the plan, it's brilliant, right? Like, and if you're taking him at face value, I know people are very polarized on Trump, but if you're taking him at face value, where he really just cares about getting the immigrants out, you have to say, well played, right? You've got to say that, right? Because I wouldn't see Colombia taking their migrants back just like on a volunteer basis, and they didn't. So, credit where credit is due. If that was the play, it was a good play. I gotta jump into some breaking news here just because it's so funny. Apparently, DeepSeek was cyber attacked, and a lot of accounts are compromised. Now, just a quick
Oh my
run
God.
through of all of the possibilities of what happened there, right? Could easily be the US, obviously. It could easily be China, right? Oops. All of the data that you just gave us was leaked. There was a cyber attack, and now they have an excuse to basically grab all of the data on everyone's phones because it wasn't DeepSeek, it was the hackers. What a time to be alive.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
But I will say, I kind of hope that it was China hacking themselves to get our data, because if we hacked them, we might be in for quite the retribution. I mean, it could be Russia just so China thought it was us, right? But yeah, if they think it's us, they have access to way more of our systems than we have of theirs. So we could be in for a rush. We could be at the start of the Cold War with China, which I don't think it would go very well for us. So let's
well,
hope that's not what's happening.
whatever the case may be, sounds like we don't have all the details right now, but it's going to be a continued conversation on these streams. It sounds like going forward. This story is far from over, maybe just beginning. I wanted to circle back to the tariff thing because I have a question. Does it show you how impactful tariffs are in countries? The fact that Colombia reversed their position in under an hour when these 25% tariffs were announced, like it seems like they're almost crippling, and the country has no choice but to bend the knee, so to say.
Yeah, good term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it like that ultimately is our biggest safeguard against China doing anything severe to us. Like, US is an importer of so many things, right? Like, any given country, I mean, China, it's pretty severe, right? Like, we stop importing things or things become expensive, like Colombian coffee, for example, which, by the way, was really funny because apparently like a lot of drugs were, I don't know if were smuggled in coffee cans. And yeah, I think if you're looking at that, it's very severe for those countries, right? If tariffs are raised and all of a sudden we want to buy, African coffee or Costa Rican coffee or, whatever, that can have a pretty severe impact on um, on a country that we import a lot from, right? And what we might be seeing right now is just like the power of what those tariffs could do, right? We might just, like, at the end of the day, these tariffs might just be, like we're saying, something that are used as a threat to get what we want from other countries. It would be hard not to look at them the way this all played out, right? And the fact that it was actually dropped, right, doesn't necessarily make me feel like it was about the tariffs in the first place. It seems like it might have been more about the immigrants if you zoom out and look at the results.
So to sidestep here for a moment, I noticed this morning with the volatility, I saw your things coming through where you're adding and dropping coin. I wanted to go back into the crypto area of the market because Bitcoin is actually hanging on to slightly positive today, although it did sell off yesterday because it's open 24/7. So maybe it kind of priced in some of the bearishness. But even so, I feel like it holding up as well kind of shows maybe its relative strength and how it's kind of outside of what all these stories may affect. So, what was your thought process on coin and crypto after this news event that we got?
I mean, I'm thinking about another move. I am. I'm gonna pull the trigger on it.
On coin?
On coin, yeah. I'm exiting the third position right now. and then I'll explain everyone why I'm doing this.
We got some hearts and prayers from Rock on Dax. Thank you, Rock, for your comment. Great to see everybody commenting in the chat today. Pretty good stream so far.
So why do we do this? Like, why do I like when? And this is why we say, are you an investor? Are you a trader? Like, sometimes you have to be both. When we're in a market that is challenging like this, like all I'm doing, and that's like 2 quick gains that I clipped, all that I'm doing is doing just what I said, right? I'm understanding the levels, I'm managing risk, right? I just took a couple wins. They were small wins, right? But I'll take small wins today, right? And I'm just saying, okay, basically what I'm saying is if the market turns around, I think coin is going to springboard, right? But the way that I'm seeing it, it might not turn around. So when it's under threat, I don't want to be caught with 3 coin positions as it keeps going. But if I see it start to move back up again, I'll probably open up another one. And like some people say that's not investing or whatever. I'm just trying to protect my gains however I can today and figure out about tomorrow later. But yeah, it's a tough day and we gotta guard however, we got to guard however we can, take all the plays out of the playbook.
So Daily Stock Picks commented CONL, a double leverage coin ETF, I think. Would you suggest any leverage today, or is it volatile enough the way the market's at?
No, I would not. And I mean, if you have a lot of conviction and you think the market's, you think you've seen a turn, go for it. But otherwise, no, I don't think I would suggest that.
I saw this update in the TikTok US story. I thought it'd be worth bringing up on the stream because one of the large language models that has caught popularity is called Perplexity. I believe that's the one that Amazon has an interest in. But they made an offer to combine with TikTok US and form a joint company called NewCo, that would also give the US government 50% ownership in the combination of those two and those assets in that new company. Now, this TikTok extension that Trump gave it is not too long. It's only like 70 days that they have something to figure out. Otherwise, we're right back in the same situation. Do you think this is a good move by Perplexity to try and position themselves with the TikTok US? And then the fact that the US government would have a 50% ownership, do you feel any type of way about that?
I feel super weird about the US government owning a piece of any social media site, right? I don't like it. I think it's a deft play by Perplexity, right? Because they don't have the cash to acquire TikTok. And I mean, it would be an interesting product, right? Combining the AI Perplexity as an interesting one. But yeah, it's like I said, it's a good move. But I don't like the US. I don't like the US owning that much of any company. It doesn't even own the healthcare system, which like a lot happens in a lot of like I don't think it should be sticking its nose in social media, especially if you're talking about like messaging control. Like I don't care whether you're Republican, Democrat, or whatever. Like I don't want who's ever in the White House to be controlling what people, see, read, censor that much. Like that's kind of going down the road to us being like China. So I don't like how that smells.
That's how I felt about this too, because even hearing about the strategic Bitcoin reserve was one thing, but now that they're talking about holding like other crypto assets and just, these crypto coins are kind of like companies. Like if you were to talk about Ethereum, XRP, like Ripple, it feels weird to me versus just Bitcoin, where the US would be investing in certain companies and holding them on their balance sheet. And I did think about that, like kind of how China government has a tie-in with their business. Is that kind of where we're headed? And, where is the line that needs to be drawn between these things?
Yeah, I mean, there's no real other way to see it than that.
Yeah. I don't know if we did we talk? I think it was kind of at the end of our last stream when the details were coming out for the crypto thing signing. It didn't seem to affect any of the crypto coins too much because I don't think many details were given. They kind of just said that they're going to form a working group and I guess look into it more. So there wasn't really any details given. I see a comment from Mario. Government in owning software, the sheep need to wake up. Does the government
Yeah.
own software right now?
I mean, if it owned TikTok, it would. I mean, yeah, um, I think it's what we've been talking about with crypto for a long time. Like, there's a difference between policy and results, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we have to we got to see what there's a difference between speculation and policy, and we really have to see the policy before we know anything.
Mm-hmm. So I saw this headline, and I thought there was going to be a lot of serious conversations going on today. So maybe this one could lighten up the mood, and we'll take a look at Costco's $1.50 hot dog. But what they did decide to do recently is change from Pepsi to Coke in this combo and across their food court. So we'll circle back to which company we'd prefer, Pepsi or Coke. But Pepsi had held the rights to that since 2013, and Costco's $1.50 hot dog has been the same price since 1985. And even today, even though it's one of their biggest loss leading items that sold approximately 150 million units last year, they are steadfast at keeping the price the same. And they said that switching from Pepsi to Coke, I guess Coke gave them a better deal, is allowing them to do that. So how do you feel Pepsi versus Coke? And then this $1.50 hot dog, you think it's like a marketing gimmick for Costco at this point, or why would they be so steadfast on keeping it that price?
Have you ever seen any of the the Costco CEO's quotes on hot dogs? It's great. It's the most important thing to him in the world, keeping these hot dog prices low. So yeah, I mean it is. It's kind of funny to see the rubber. He wants to keep them at that price, but it's kind of funny to see the rubber hitting the road even harder, where you have him talking basically dropping a soda provider over it. I think it's hilarious.
Do you have any opinions on the companies themselves, Coke versus Pepsi, going forward from here? They seem to be very similar, but obviously Buffett owns Coke and he has for a long time. Any thoughts about those two separately? Maybe we could check them out in Prospero and see how they look one versus the other.
I think is Coke KOF? I think it might be KOF. Yeah. Boy, not looking good. And then Pepsi looks a little better. Neither of them look very good. But yeah, I just think it's really funny that the big message is wow, it is very important to this Costco CEO to keep these prices.
So one of the only companies that was working today in this red market was AT&T, which was up 7% on their earnings. And I was wondering, are value stocks going to come back in vogue now that we've had this hiccup for the tech and growth stocks that have led the way for so long?
Are value stocks going to come back and go? I mean, yeah. I mean, it's hard to speculate today, right? We've got to see how it goes. But I mean, today we're definitely looking at a move towards value. But I always say this, you can't, and I'm going to adjust slightly, but you can't overreact to one day. It's one of the most important things, right? Because I could amplify my losses by basically completely switching my portfolio. And then today, all this stuff corrects in the other direction. You always have to make adjustments, corrections, but do just that.
So that was all the topics I had for today. We are slightly early here. I don't know if we want to chat with our people watching for a second, see if they want to ask us any questions. I do see the QQQ is now down over 3%, so we've had some slippage throughout the stream. So how I was positioning where it was down 5% pre-market and coming back, maybe not going to be the case as this day goes on. But we'll have to wait and see how the market action unfolds. How are you? So you were just saying you don't want to overreact as we get into this model portfolio update. Do you believe, what does that mean to you? Like, do you think you're going to have 2-to-1 bears today, bear picks versus bull picks? Do you think you're just going to trim? How are you thinking going into it?
I'm going to trim based on momentum. I'm going to trim based on momentum score. And maybe I'll probably flip. I'd have to flip more bearish than bullish. I'm going to figure out exactly what I'm going to trim. But yeah, that is going to be my strategy. I'm going back into Coinbase. Sorry for the turbulence, everybody here. I'm out. I'm in. I think it's turning in. I mean, just so everybody knows, like, this is a very easy tactic. I'm just getting out when I have a profitable position in kind of my like turnaround, right? Because what I'm hoping is that it swings all the way in the other direction, and then these positions really print money.
Well, Casey Hughes just asked, with net option sentiment staying so high on coin, what indicators will you watch to take a long position again? So I guess what did you see right now when you decided to go back
I'm looking pure technicals. I'm looking at the charts and seeing if it's turning around, right? And then I'm taking profits, right? I think it's about to go back in the other direction. And then if I see it going back in this direction, I'll just take another profit.
So this type of trading that you're doing, I feel like it kind of is with what we were talking about a couple streams ago, where you need an intuition for a stock that you watch a lot. You have a good feel for this company.
Yeah, and I'm singling it out because net option sentiment, and I see it already going up because net option sentiment is at 100, right? That's why I'm singling out. I have macro reasons for liking coin, right? I'm basically vacillating between 3 and 2 positions, right? Because I think if this flips, right, it's going to flip hardest for my Coinbase positions. That's what I'm most confident in.
And in the worst case scenario, you just have to, I guess, hold on to it, which it has 100 net option sentiment. So it's like not the worst stock in the world to have to hold through something when it's got the best signals.
Exactly. And like this one's already looking okay. I think it's going to swing. What I definitely am going to do this time is I'm either going to exit Palantir, AppLovin, or both when it looks like this swing is going back in the other direction and done. But yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing some interesting battles back and forth. We already have 2 wins. Coin is in a place where it looks like it's going to be, we could just grab 3 wins, right? And I think that it's just like, that's just like easy chart reading. And to your point, right? Let's say I'm wrong and coin just keeps getting decimated like everything else, although I'm going to watch and try to get out at another win on this one. I'm hoping it's going to keep going up, but I'm watching. I was at like, it was down 7% when I entered. I might exit again. But hopefully I can carry this one upwards again and then do it. But yeah, it's just what I'm saying, because it's my favorite long right now. And I see Bitcoin being more resilient than anything else. I'm singling it out to just grab my wins. And it's that, like, I don't mind taking these small wins, but it's not about that. It's more about, I want to have, if this does turn around and it turns around for Bitcoin, I want those 3 to carry my whole portfolio, cover the losses of today. And if I keep seeing volatility, I'll accept just clipping some wins, right? But this time I've kind of seen this cycle enough that what I really want to do beyond this is probably also get out of Palantir or App or both, and take on another short. And I might just do that up front, to be honest, right when I get there, just because I don't know how long this turn is going to last.
So I think Mario, with his comment, was circling back to the original topic around deep, what's it called? He was saying, is there any acknowledgement from Trump about how this app stayed under the radar until now? I don't believe so, but we'd expect him to speak at some point today, probably, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, but I also think it's what I'm saying. Like, I also think it's just, um, it might have stayed under the radar because this announcement could be bullshit, right? It could be just like, oh, let's throw a wrench, let's sow discontent in the US stock market, right? Are we verifying these results? We don't know. They could be fudging the numbers, they could be lying about the costs, they could be using extra compute in the background that they didn't say they were using, you know? There could be tons of stuff at play here.
That is one detail that I'm not sure I mentioned in the beginning, where I saw that the company that made this app, although they claim to have used like hundreds of NVIDIA GPUs, they have like 50,000 in another warehouse. So the legitimacy of the actual training of this model is being questioned by people. But I guess
Yeah, and keep in mind, they also admitted to using like NVIDIA GPUs that they weren't supposed to have. They admitted to that, right? So
yeah.
definitely worth being mindful of that part.
Well, I think that is a wrap on the questions we had. Do you want to do the switch over now and we'll do the model portfolio?
Yeah, I think I might close out this app position, but I'll be right with you.
No problem. We'll
All right,
see you
bye.
on the other side. Everybody stick around here with me. We've had over 2,000 total people in the stream today between YouTube and Twitter. If you enjoyed it so far and found our coverage of the current events helpful, please let us know in the chat because it's nice to hear, and also like the video and share it with everybody who might also find it useful in their investing. I see your comment, Mario, that just came in. So when George goes back in here, we'll ask him that. I wonder if NVIDIA can shut down those chips. That would be interesting if they could have control over them after already shipping and selling them. I don't think they would be able to, but we'll see if George has any extra insight on that. What I want to do is look in Prospero at the QQQ and SPY net option sentiment now and see if anything has changed since the very beginning of the stream when we looked at them. If you weren't here for that, what was interesting was that the SPY net option sentiment was higher than the QQQ, which is very unlike the trend we've had in recent months. The QQQ has been the more bullish one for a long time now. So let's take a look. So the QQQ is at 7, and the beginning of the stream it was at 8, so it's still down there in the doldrums. And the SPY is at 17, which is now a drop more than it was at the beginning of the stream. I think it was around 30 when we started, so it's catching up to the QQQ at the bottom, and maybe it's looking like how this sell-off is kind of continued as we've gone on. It's looking more legitimate, and maybe it will be a rough closing of the day today. I'm not sure what the circuit breakers are in the stock market, but I believe if something like, I think it's 3.5%, if all of the indexes are down over 3.5%, they like pause the markets. I think the last time it happened was during COVID. Hopefully we don't get there. Right now, none of the markets are down over 3.5%. The QQQ is the closest, down 3.2%. So we'd have to turn much more bearish, but we will see. We will stay updated. And we will be back live Wednesday, 3 p.m. this week. So we're on our normal schedule for everybody watching. Last week we were delayed a day, but we are back in our normal routine. Let's take a look at Bitcoin, like we were just talking about, showing relative strength on the day. Is it still doing so? Okay, so Bitcoin has slipped below 100,000, which is a big level that it's been battling with in recent weeks. It's at 99,680 and down now 0.68% on the day. So just slightly negative, but it has turned red.
All right. The first thing that we are going to do is take a look at our investing portfolio here.
George, Mario asked while you were gone, does NVIDIA have the ability to shut down chips that they've already sold if they wanted to? The ones in China.
That would be some very scary tech that they probably wouldn't want to admit they had. I mean, it's very, without having an internet connection to the chips, right? I mean, basically you have to have some way to connect. What they could do is feasibly, they could have a transmitter in the chip if you didn't have access to the internet connection, where they would basically have to fly something over. Maybe it could be a satellite. Actually, if we're talking about the possible, right? If we're talking about the possible, they could have something in their chips that a satellite transmission could shut off the chips. That's possible, right? Would they want, like, I'm not sure this is the event that they'd want to burn that on. And I mean, this is just like a new LLM. And like, you'd basically be starting the Cold War there. Like, I don't know what their retaliation for that would be, but it's possible, but incredibly unethical and bad for business, right? You could see the US government doing that, right? I can't see NVIDIA doing that. But, maybe the US government forced their hand and said, you have to put this little transmitter in all your chips that allow us to, like, fry them. Otherwise, they're not leaving the country. Right? It's possible. Everything's possible. Looks like it was AppLovin's recovering a little bit, but very quickly, I'm sharing, right? Quickly, what we want to do, we want to just get in I need another tech short. I should have doubled up on Dell this morning. I wanted to, but I didn't see. All right, let's look at Intuit. How are you doing? Intuit's actually up. Ooh, NXPI is a potential. NXPI is up too. All of these weird, like, smaller MU's probably doing bad.
Did you just bring up Intuit as like a bearish one?
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering if
doing well today.
Trump talking about getting rid of federal income tax, if that would be very bad for the
yeah, maybe that's why it's setting up. All right, we're taking a look at Micron as our short, just because it's looking pretty low on that momentum score. I got to see where it is in upside. What are you doing? 62 net option sentiment. That's on the way down. That's not really our preferred thing, but lowest in momentum score. I think we're doing it. I think we're short in Micron, even though it's not really. We got to hedge ourselves here at this event. And we probably should have done this more this morning, but it did look like it was coming back. And this is just us adjusting, right? We got rid of AppLovin. We kind of liked it. We still got it. We're doing a non-traditional short for a non-traditional situation. Because what you always have to be careful about in a situation like this, especially one that's kind of like macro, is that tomorrow is worse than today, right? So I think I feel good about where we're at now. I still might exit Palantir. Thank God we weren't in any chips as well. But
Man, Nvidia down over 15% at over a 3 trillion market cap. That's like $450 billion just wiped out. That's crazy. It's got to be one of the biggest moves ever, I feel like, in terms of market cap.
and it might not be done. What's going on with ROP? No, see all of these like package software. All right, we got to just get back to our scheduled programming. I'm going to keep watching. I don't want to have to keep clipping coin. I'm hoping that it's turning around. Where's Bitcoin? 71 down. Oh, ON Semiconductor finally going down. Jesus. Apps going back up. That's fine. We had to cover our asses. All right, coins going back up. We got 3x of that. That's fine. That's how we're exposing. We're not getting exposed on that. Let me just see what's at the top here. How is Twilio doing? Oh, Jesus. What's going on with this? Why is Twilio going up? I should have gotten into it. What is going on? Does anyone out there know why? Maybe Twilio is like potentially benefiting from cheaper compute.
Maybe that's cyber news, cyber attack news. Goldman Sachs price target raised from 77 to 185.
All right, Twilio. We're getting in that too. Should we? I think only if we're getting out of Palantir do we want to get into that. Swap a loser for a winner. Maybe we want to ride that before we get out. All right. We're getting into Twilio. All right. Great. Now that's down. Sorry, everyone. It's a live portfolio triage. Let's check where we are with Palantir a win. Yeah, it's a win. Let's get out. Let's get out with a win. All right, then we can get to the model portfolio, everyone. All right, we made sure to grab some wins there.
QQQ net option sentiment has now hit 0.
Damn.
SPY is at 12.
Okay. Hopefully we have done enough here. Bitcoin is heading back up. All right, Twilio down already, of course, but whatever. At least it's a better long bet if this turns around. The price target just got raised. I think before we get into the letter, Micron's up, of course. I think before we get into the letter, we've got I think we want tech. Wait, let's just see what's down today first. A live triage. Wait, that can't be right. Wow. Okay, tech, utilities, energy, a little bit, and large cap. Yeah, okay. So we are just basically looking at tech and utilities. And then we want to isolate maybe industrials too. Isolate large cap. Why utilities? No, that wasn't what we wanted to see. Oh, let's just it's not maybe we're not maybe looking large cap enough. All right, MU, we saw that one already. SRE. All right, SRE looks like a good short opportunity. Not really what we're looking for, but we want. Not really exactly what we're looking for, but we definitely want just more short exposure. All right. What about that's not it. Where's momentum score? How's TXM doing today? Doing fine. Yeah, it seems like a lot of these beat up stocks. Oh, AMD. AMD has an 82 net option sentiment, but a 50. Oh, we're into momentum scores of 55. That's not great. These smaller ones are just not really taking the heat. It's the bigger ones. It's crazy. Is RTX Raytheon?
The Dow Jones has just now defied all odds and is green on the day.
Yeah, people are going to value, you know?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got into Micron, got out of app. God, Wendy's doing well today. That one really irks me. Is that because everybody's like, oh, this country's going to shit. Everybody's going to be poor. Bumble going up too is kind of funny. I think that's because it got beat up. And it's like, oh, everybody's going to turn to online dating now. All right. I think we've done. I'm thinking about Eli Lilly long, but what I really should be doing is just cutting losses. I mean, the thing about this and why I'm like hanging in on Bitcoin is like there's no real good reason that coin should be affected here. I might be getting out again. Had another slight win. Sorry, everyone, if high trade frequency offends you. Okay. Sorry, a lot of live moves going on here. How is coin doing? Yep. Sorry, everyone. We're getting out again. I think. Maybe. I can't decide. No, I think we'll deal with that later. Sorry, we're slow moving today, everyone. Hopefully this is still helpful. Sometimes you see these things are very tough to deal with in real time, and you just gotta do your best. At least we have that micron on the downside now. We have that. And coin, we just have to think is going to turn around, even though we have 3. All right, there's one more thing I want to check here. I'm just going to go to tech. I'm just going to go to tech, and I'm going to see if any of these small cap ones that are very low, like what's going on with like CGNX as a mid cap. That looks decent. Just to get more exposure. You want to tell me what CGNX does?
Sure. CGNX provision of machine vision products and solutions that improve efficiency and quality in a wide range of businesses across industrial markets.
Boy, they're not making this very easy on us. CGNX has a 75 net option sentiment right now, so. Okay, how about CGW? Not really what we wanted to see on the downside. No, that has 57 net option sentiment. Yeah, these are none of these. Nothing's very easy today. Ooh, form might be a good one. I know that gets hit sometimes. Yeah, okay. There we go. Form looks good. Oh, Jesus.
can't win anything. Form now one net option sentiment. I think in looking at that, that to me says there might be some people starting to bet on a turnaround on some of these things. All right, we did MU. What about Garment? What about AMAT? That has 65 upside, but a declining net option sentiment. Probably could have done this morning, but right at the start, but it did give us a bit of a fake out. All right. How are we getting into AMAT2? I think at least until the end of the day, likely. Let's see. We're going to look at some of our other stuff. Ooh, Palantir. Coinbase. Oh, Jesus. We should have gotten out. We might get out of our other one. All right, we can start writing the rest of the letter, I think. I want to keep my eye on applied materials. Bitcoin doing? All right. We're doing applied materials too. Just covering our asses. I think. How's that looking? Let's just check out the 5 one more time. Yeah, I think we're getting a little momentum back down. Oh, we got out of Palantir. That was good. I forgot we did. All right, this is what slowly flipping your portfolio looks like. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to be very light on the entries today, obviously. I'd say long or short. Heavy on the exits.
We're not going to do sector. I think because we're mainly just focused. We'll do that one. Why not? I thought I was done with this already. It doesn't matter. All right, where are we on the?
QQQ is at 3 and the SPY is at 16.
Why is Snowflake doing well today? I guess it's like service bubble. Okay. Bitcoin making a bit of a comeback here. Let's just do the letter. We press on. What is it? You said 3 and 16?
Yes. Yeah, 3 and 16.
I do.
Large cap growth is feeling some heavy losses. We always say that is highly aligned with AI, and we are seeing that today. Luckily, we did not have any direct chip exposure because we have stated our worries on chips China with Trump in the White House. Value stocks are doing better, but we are concerned about a correction the other way tomorrow. So we will do a mix of closing positions and leaving room for that.
Does anyone have like, oh, I mean, why is healthcare going up? Same reason the other beat up stocks are going up. It's like recovery. I mean, I've been thinking about looking at Eli Lilly as a result on the long side, but we'll kind of take a look at what's looks good in momentum score. Eli Lilly is looking good. Um, okay, keep getting distracted by this craziness. All right. A lot of real estate here. We had a real estate position, but that did poorly. We just like not hitting on a lot of good cylinders today. I think we do want materials is good. We wanted some defensive. It's looking pretty good. Is CGNX still? Oh, Bitcoin making a rally. Nope, still high, still way too high. All right, industrials, definitely. I think that'll do it. Let's see what the damage is on. Oh, the model portfolio didn't take that big of a hit. It's a little more balanced heading into today.
Spiky Dude commented, Eric Trump confirms U.S.-based crypto projects will benefit from zero capital gains tax.
See, you knew they would. You knew they would come out with something. That's why we stayed in the Bitcoin. If you can count on this administration for one thing, they will try to tip the scales of the market. Oof. Woo. Some of these, it's brutal. All right, I'm comfortable exiting. I think that'll do it. We did a fair amount of switching, I think, in this stuff. Yeah, MU, Dell. Yeah, and then we exited some longs. Okay. That's everything. Any questions on this shit show of a day?
I don't see any questions. Pretty epic live stream. Hopefully, we were able to help you guys out and provide some value for you today. We'll be back Wednesday, 3 p.m. Hopefully, the market's a little bit greener by then, but we'll see.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. See everybody soon.